KPIs are the lifeblood of business intelligence, and defining what yours are is the first important decision you'll need to make when starting your BI project. In this video, I'll be sharing some tips on how to choose the right KPIs for your business. Hey everyone, Adam here from Vitamin BI, bringing you business intelligence for beginners and beyond. On this channel, we look at all things BI, things like data analysis and visualization, as well as BI platforms and how to choose the right one for you. So if you're new here, think about subscribing. But before we get started, let's just remind ourselves exactly what KPIs are. KPI stands for Key Performance Indicator. They're metrics that help you measure a business's performance or success in achieving its objectives. Now, KPIs will vary based on the nature of the business activity, but they can be high level, like measuring the overall performance of a business, or focus more on specific aspects of a specific activity, like marketing, finance, or your website. So how do you define your KPIs? Some overall ones might come to mind fairly easily, like total revenue, total sales, that kind of thing. But what about the more specific ones? Well, like I said, it really does depend on your particular business activity and the data that you have available. But let me share with you some of my top tips for things to think about to help you get started. So my first tip is an exercise that you can try by imagining that your business has its very own personal assistant like Siri or Alexa. And this assistant has access to all of your business data and can answer any question you might have about how it's performing. So, what questions would you want to ask? What for you are your key performance indicators? Here are a few example questions. How much has our revenue grown this month? Obviously, that will be your revenue metrics, but then focused on a specific period of time compared with a previous period. How is our website performing? In this case, you'll need to define what KPIs define performance for you. It won't just be the number of visits it gets, because it could be that visitors aren't engaging with your site, or you might be getting some spam traffic. So you need to think about things like the average session length, the number of pages viewed per visit, and the bounce rate. When should I order more stock? Here, maybe measure a percentage of your stock capacity remaining side by side with a KPI showing the rate at which your stock is selling. How has our new promotion impacted sales? Here, you might need to compare sales for a period of time before and since the launch of the promotion to calculate the percentage difference. What social media posts create the most engagement? Here, you could compare different social media channels to see which ones give you the most reach and engagement, or maybe categorize your posts depending on their theme or content to see which ones perform better. So already you can see that just asking these questions, it gets you thinking about the data points that you'll need to answer them and focus in on the important KPIs. Quick tip number 2 is to consider different aggregators. Now, if you're not familiar with what an aggregator is, it's things like sum, average, minimum, and maximum. And these can be applied to your KPIs. So you don't always have to go for sum to add everything up and get a total value. You might want to consider applying different aggregators to different KPIs. For example, let's say you run a restaurant. You might want to know what the average spend per cover is, or the maximum number of covers in any given period. Which brings me to tip number 3, periodicity. By measuring KPIs over a specific period of time, it allows you to compare them with previous periods and see how things are trending and evolving. In a dashboard, you might often see a KPI that looks like this. Here we can see revenue for the past 30 days with a percentage of variation from the previous 30. The figure for the previous period isn't all that important, but seeing that there's a trend and by how much things have gone up or down is. Tip number 4 is to consider combining metrics in order to create calculated KPIs. Now let's say you run a shop or an e-commerce business and you provide shipping. Now you might want to create a KPI which takes your revenue minus your shipping cost to see how much you're generating just on the products themselves. Now get creative. Consider how you're going to answer the questions you want answering with the data that you have available. And finally, tip number 5, which is similar to the previous tip about combining metrics because it involves calculations, and that's filtered or targeted KPIs. If there's a specific area of your business you'd like to analyze or focus on more closely, you might need to apply a filter to one of your metrics like revenue. Taking the restaurant example again, it might be that you want to see how much you're generating on just the beverages. In that case, you'd take your revenue metric and you'd apply a filter of just the drinks items. Or if you're talking about your website traffic, you might want to know what traffic is coming from social media. So in that case, you'd take your website visits metric and you'd filter by the social media channels. So there you have it, my top 5 tips for helping you define your business KPIs. Like I said at the start, every business is different with different data and therefore different KPIs. This video is just to help you get started thinking about how to define yours. Then you'll need to find out where the data lives to produce them and start planning to build your dashboard. More on that in another video which I'll link to in the description. So that's it from me for today. Thanks for watching, I'll see you soon, and until then, stay BI curious.